Record. So, actually, just before I dive into how I was going to start with the last week of cycle 7, which is different than how I was originally going to start. So, we have a starting point. I have a prequel to the starting point, but I'm actually prequeling the prequel, and then we'll get to it. Which is just wanting to make sure, bring eyes to or attention to, which I talked about, I think last time we met a couple weeks ago, the Soul Alchemist Academy on Ning. Just because you may have noticed that I'm not sending out the recordings anymore, but I am uploading them to that place so that you have access to them. And I'm not getting emails saying, "Can you resend? I lost the email." They're just there. And so hopefully you guys have been finding them. I've also been uh, posting the prompt questions as well. So, you can always go in there and for a little bit of a daily contemplation. So that's the prequel to the prequel. Now we're at the prequel, which is just wanting to again, oh, here's someone coming in. Um, just this. Here, let me go into share. So it is um I think I started in the first week just to bring this awareness of like what exactly is the healing of this cycle? Like what is the shift? What is the embodied, transmuted, reprogrammed, releasing the old programming, calling in the new programming that we're doing. So you may have heard me say this in a number of different places, but it is worth landing on it again. So just to expand what you see up on the screen, the power of cycle 7 is the healing that comes when we know in every cell that our lives have meaning and significance. Which, sounds like a easy thing to say, but I don't even know how often you hear like just we are lost. We feel lost. We don't know what is it that is the impetus for moving my feet forward day after day, and that it's not what somebody else's meaning or purpose is for my life. It's not, oh, my life has meaning because of my job or my relationships or, all of the things I do out there. Of course, that's fabulous, but the meaning has to transcend that. So it's not just that some people's lives have meaning, or that there's certain times in life that have meaning, or that there's certain things we do to create meaning in our life. It's that our lives are always graced with deep meaning. That doesn't just have an impact on those around us, but it has far-reaching impact beyond that of which we can be consciously aware. So taking time, even if it's ever so brief, and it can be challenging to do so because there are dark times in our lives, there are painful times in our lives, but to have this, as we're going to be talking today about the crown chakra, which is where the blueprint is. Like this is the pattern of my life. And so this time is recognizing all these individual moments in our lives that come together, big and small, ecstatic and tragic, precise, focused, or directionless. They all contribute their distinct and necessary color to the overall vibrancy and nuance of the full pictures that make up our lives. Very often it is not until we are at the end of something that we can see that the twists and turns in the path that brought us to where we are today were necessary to bring us to this spot. When we are in the thick of our experiences or in the intensity of our pain, or we don't know how to move ourselves out of those places, it can be challenging or impossible to do anything other than just react and react and react and react. And so we're not being responsive, let alone trying to find a place to be, grateful about it. But when we are able to come to a place in which we know, even if we are experiencing pain, even if we are being challenged more than we ever have been before, or being challenged more than we think it is in our capacity to manage, right? Because there's that as well. I know I've talked about this before. I sometimes, and again, this is very much a cycle 7 thing. I sometimes look up, and say, well, I am glad that you've got the confidence in me to manage this because I am really struggling to find that confidence within myself. But there is this thing of, if that there is a truism, you aren't given more than what is your capacity to handle. I think very often the thing that is so hard for us to be able to accept is that it's that almost that sense of surrender. I want to fix it out there. I want to change it out there. I want other people to see it in a certain way, and I don't have any control over that. And so spirit has the faith that I will come to remember that truth of who I am. There's something within us that can rise above, even momentarily, the pain and the challenge to gain a higher perspective, to tap into that higher truth, to connect to the higher self, and recognizing that this is not about a situation. Nothing is about a particular situation or dynamic or relationship or person. That it is about our recognition of our innate, indestructible spirit selves. This is the philosopher's stone. It's about seeing the larger pattern. So the me that I was coming into the world and having all of these experiences, what is the thing that I recognize in myself that was always there, always there, always there? And identifying that as the inner strength that is always accessible to us in any situation and in response to any pain. This is what we are connecting to with the energy of gratitude. That we are not defined, and I know I've said this a million times, and I'm not the first. I think Carl Jung was the first to say it. We are not defined by what happens to us. We are not defined by the situations out there. I'm not even sure I did write in the noble art. We are defined by how we respond to it. Yeah, and there's, an extent to that as well. But in truth, I think we are defined by something even deeper than that, because there are moments when I may not respond in my highest capacity. That there is something else. There's a pain that comes on. And I think if any of us have the experience of any type of chronic pain, that it tends to impact on the way in which we respond to things. And so whether that's physical, emotional, mental. So I'm definitely not defined by the thing that happens to me. I can pay attention to the shape of being defined by how I respond to it, but also being aware of what are the things that are influencing that as well. And this is again where I know I've said this a million times as well. I feel like I'm having this conversation a lot and um, trying to reflect, respect and understanding for where it's coming from. That's part of what I write in Psychoprompts in the Soul. I tend to be a little bit uh, just discerning around the extent to which we tend to be defined uh, by like personality disorders, right? Because this is what I hear a lot. I can't remember if I said it here. I have said it in other places. 30 years ago when I started practicing, I remember out of a full practice, I had one person who I suspected might have borderline personality disorder, although that was not anything that was ever mentioned. But um, I was doing anyways, one person. And now I think I should be charting this, but if not 100%, certainly like 80-85% of new clients who come to me, 100% ADHD, probably ADHD autism, but also an awful lot of BPD diagnoses. And and that is looking at the way in which we respond to something. That's exactly that, right? Which is not the truth of who you are. It's still an adaptation of, it's informed by pain and shame and trauma. And so again, coming to the place of being able to see things in a bigger perspective, like, oh, this happened to me and this is how I responded. This happened to me and this is how I responded. This happened to me, and I can start to see how I started to develop a belief system that said, if I encounter this person, this is what's going to happen. And so I'm preemptively trying to control a situation. So again, just having this awareness of these layers, layers, layers that um how I am in the world is informed by the experiences that I've had and the belief system that my unconscious has patched together out of those experiences. But that in the crown chakra, so let's go back over here. The crown chakra, this higher perspective. Oh, here it is. Let's go back one more. Oops, wrong way. Yeah, so the higher perspective that looks at the fruits of experience and starts to be able to discern these patterns and recognizes that there is malleability to it. This is where I tend to just, have awareness around reflecting that the the challenge with some of these labels that we like, yes, I recognize, to say that if the label comes to me that, oh, I can recognize aspects of myself in that definition, but it's not set in stone. It's not concrete. It developed out of experiences, and it can shift with other awarenesses, right? And this is where the crown chakra becomes so this higher perspective that starts to filter down, like that kerplunk game I always talk about. Do you guys know the kerplunk game? As we start to pull out the erroneous beliefs, the the painful negative core beliefs, then this the higher perspective can start to filter down and into what we think and what we think about ourselves and how we engage in life, and the feelings that we have, the way that we listen to our emotions, and even the way in which we move through our lives. So the crown chakra is, it opens up to the cosmos, the root chakra. It's the mirror reflection of the root. The root connects us down to the earth, and I think that the the expanse of the human experience, what it is to be human, to be embodied, and the crown chakra opens us up to, just this expanse of wonder. It's not even vision. Vision is already starting to materialize it in a certain way, but this is just opening to awe and expansiveness. So it is the last of the chakras which is embodied. In cycle 8, we'll look at the transpersonal point, or the soul star chakra, and it is um, out of body above the head. In truth, I might actually look at it in reflection to the earth star chakra, which is also not embodied, and it's about a foot below the feet, so that we're egg-shaped, but not just, right to our physicality. We are in this whole energetic cocoon. But the crown chakra is the last of the embodied, and it's said to be the seat of the higher self. If the solar plexus is the seat of the self, the conscious self, the embodied self, then the crown chakra is the seat of the higher self. And those two are so interconnected, because when through the energetic of shame, which again, I know, like, just one trick pony. I just say the same thing over and over and over again. But honestly, if we're not dealing with the shame, we're kind of spinning our wheels, because shame is the messaging, as I've said 100 times, a million times. Shame is the internal experience and belief that there is something wrong with me, that I am flawed, that I am uh, been ousted from the Garden of Eden. I am not lovable, acceptable, and and all of that, from that place of shame, it all the other issues really stem, because it's going to shift how I experience my feelings, how I engage with other people, the way in which I try to um I heard this terminology, and again, I totally recognize, I understand the place of from whence it comes, but someone said I didn't have a chance to mask up before I went in. And so recognizing that masking is like, I need to have control over the face that I present to the world. Because underneath that is a belief that the world is not a safe place. If I actually show who I am, I'm going to be in trouble. So I need to put this mask on in order to keep myself safe. Absolutely understandable. Absolutely understandable, especially if you've been raised in circumstances where it hasn't been safe and there has been a lot of criticism and judgment or shaming around the humiliation around just who you are. But that also keeps us caught in that shame cycle that says that my okayness is dependent on how other people are looking or treating me. And so, huh, I just talked myself into I totally forgot what my initial point was. Oh, I know what it was. Solar plexus, right? So if it is shame that sits in my solar plexus, and it's relatively easy to figure that out. You kind of drop inside and bring your awareness to your solar plexus, and just have this sense of, if it feels sort of calm and full and sort of gentle towards self, right? That there's an energy to it. But if it's roiling, or if it feels like just emptiness, like there's something inside the solar plexus which is seeking, 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 seeking. Um, or if you think about going into situations and there's like the butterflies or the flutter, um, the roller coaster, the sharp little nudge of fear, all of that is indicative of it being shame. And if shame is sitting in our solar plexus, then what is sitting in our crown is the critic. The critic is the one who's saying, oh, you better watch what you say. You better dress like that. You can't open your mouth there. You better not be too loud. Remember, remember all the times that people criticized you in the past, all the times that people made fun of you, all the times that you screwed up in the past. The blueprint through the lens of the inner critic is all the negative stuff, all the painful stuff. And it's not reflecting your truth, your essence. It's reflecting all of those sort of external expectations and and judgments. So just having this awareness of the connection between the crown chakra and the solar plexus, that when I know it sounds so trite, but it's so important that that whole like I it's hard for me not to think about, is it the in Saturday Night Live? This was, I think, in the 90s. Stuart Small, is it Stuart Smalley? Stuart Smalley saves his family. Do you guys, okay, I'm coming back because I need to see you guys. Um, do you guys remember that? Stuart Smalley? Is it Stuart Smalley? Nicole, was it Stuart Smalley?
I think so. The I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
That's
Is that the
yeah.
guy?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where he's like in front of the mirror,
Hmm.
doing the affirmations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a sorry, I'm looking, I'm reading. Okay. Will I be adding cycles resources? Yes, I will to Ning. I'm thinking that that was Sarah, that was the question. So I will be adding other things to the Ning site as well. Um, yeah, oh, Dodie. Yeah, I say to myself that I was a mistake. Yeah, that's the thing is that it's not, I know this sounds so trite, but it's so important really to pay attention to the language of, oh, right, I made a mistake. There's an action that I did, the doingness, because that's rectifiable, right? But to say that I am a mistake, I can't change. Well, this is what we try to change me. Maybe if I run faster or jump higher or am more accommodating or, then maybe I won't feel like a mistake. But the thing is that our spirit knows that we are who we are. Um, we can, my essence is, I, I can, I can have input and reflect how I express that in the world. But my essence is sort of like there's this movie that I saw as a kid called The Ugly Dash Hound about a couple who get together. He has a Great Dane and she's got miniature dash hounds. Do you know where I'm going with this? So the Great Dane really wants to be a dash hound. Um, and you can imagine how well that goes over. And that's kind of it. Like it is what it is. And how to be able to I love and accept myself for who I am, getting all the way back to Stuart Smalley. Um, trite is sort of a short, meaningless. repeated so often it loses its flavor. Um, that's what trite means. Um, yes, everything happens for a reason. And when we are able to recognize, I feel like there was one other thing. Oh, yeah. So, Enion also said they can let you out of jail because they can let you out of jail because they put the jail in your head 100%. Right. And that's the inner critic that sits up there. And that inner critic. So, I mean, again, anybody who's been with me for any amount of time knows that I really pay attention to the way in which we talk to ourselves. When I hear, oh, just, that language, and I hear it all the time. What did I just hear? Oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm such a dumbass. I just heard someone say that the other day, and I'm like, you know, that's that voice. And words have energy and directionality. And that we sometimes, that's the other thing too. We say these things to ourselves because it's easier, it hurts less if I just say it to myself than if somebody else says it to me. It doesn't hurt, let's say, it just hurts, right? It just hurts. And so I have increasingly tended to come to a place where there's a lot of places where life is a spectrum, a lot of places. There are a couple places where I think it's an on-off switch. And shame in essence is one of those places. That I'm either coming from essence or I'm coming from shame. They don't coexist. In the grand scheme of a life, oh yeah, I can see, oh, it's all gray. But moment to moment, I'm either centered in myself or I'm centered in some other belief about myself. And if I'm centered in that place, then it's the inner critic that lives in my head. And I have cut myself off from source. And that brings us back to looking at, what happens with a blocked crown chakra when I have cut myself off from spirit. My experience of spirit. I we'll talk about this in cycle 8. Um I tend to reflect the same way that Carl Jung talked about the difference between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The personal, I can only really know my personal unconscious. These are the things that have happened to me. I can be aware that archetypes are live in the collective unconscious, and it is that which connects all of us together. So I can only know about my experience of mother. I know my mother. I know what what it means to me through that experience, or through watching movies about it, or reading about it, or becoming, and you know but I can't know your experience. You know your experience, but you will have an experience of that. And your experience and my experience and everybody's experience all comes together in the collective unconscious. There is this thing, this energy of mother, of which we all have our own personal experiences. And I feel on the reverse side of it, the mirror side of it, that the divine is the same. Well, and I mean that's a whole other reflection of archetypes, truth be told. But my experience of spirit, my own personal experience of spirit, is what lives in my higher self, in my crown chakra as my higher self. And when we go above that, so this is where I think we run into issues around trying to argue about what is the nature of God, right? Because well, the archetypal energies, that's in the collective on the collective super conscious is the way that I refer to it. So my job from a crown chakra perspective is to be aware of what my relation to spirit is. I'm not trying to convince other people of it, just how do I experience it? How open am I? How guided am I? How do I listen? What is the voice of it? And when I cut off from that, when I'm blocked, so physically, how it can feel is like the pressure in the head. I sometimes will feel like there's an octopus that's just got me gripped. Um, Headaches and migraines can be connected to the brow. I think I talked about that in the last. Oh no, we didn't meet in the last cycle, did we? But anyways, so um anybody who has consistent persistent headaches, sometimes it can be around um also being like too overly open. So it's not a shutdown crown chakra. It's too much. So you're not getting enough sleep, you're not eating enough, you're not paying attention to the needs of the body because it's just all up there. Um, and migraines can also be around anger like that. Just that's not shifting, not moving. It just sits in there. Um, but also just this not being open to a flow of energy that moves through us. Um, Chronic fatigue has I've certainly witnessed it as being again not don't want to oversimplify, but when I'm always trying to catch up with these external expectations of how I'm supposed to be in the world and I'm not opening myself up to being guided by what makes sense to my heart, what where I'm being guided, what lifts my spirit. Then that's just like a soul exhaustion that overtakes us. Um, Depression is so I often talk about anxiety and depression as being two different directional signals about the way in which we're not connected to ourselves. And depression is like no soul, no animation. There's no energy coming in. Uh, there's nothing to lift me up, no uplifting, and so I am depressed. It is similar to that overall sense of fatigue or chronic fatigue. There's no energy, literally spirit energy. But then on the other side of it, so that's if it's blocked, there's no energy coming, like shut down. But if it's overly wide, because if we're not balanced in the center, we're going to be either it's where I love the story of Goldilocks. Too hot, too cold, just right. Too hard, too soft, just right, right? It's all a lesson in chakras. Goldilocks and the seven chakras. Who's writing that book? Oh my gosh. Somebody's got to write that book. Um, so if it's too big, then that's that spiritual bypass. It doesn't recognize and honor our human experience. The turning the other cheek can just mean that we're lacerated on all fronts instead of knowing how to, um, establish boundaries, say no, say that's not okay. You can't treat me like that. I'm worthy of respect. I have worth. Um, but the other aspect, though, of course, this is all about bringing an energy of co-creation. And in that, I have to trust my higher self, but I also trust myself. And I certainly have had instances where I've had, you know, people say, well, I'm taking this class because my angels told me to. I'm like, okay, I totally get that. I totally respect that. Do you want to be here? I tend to be of the belief that if you're here just because your mother told you to be here, or if you're here just because the angels told you to be here, it's still the same thing. It's still this outside thing. So if it's like, oh yeah, this person recommended it to me and it resonated with me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had this nudge from the angels and I thought, yeah, yeah, I can see. Absolutely 100%. But you have got to be in the picture as well. Higher self is not a, how to put this? It's not a non-negotiable, it's a suggestion, right? Again, this is where free will comes in. And so there have been many times, I would say, for myself, even like, move to Wales. Yeah, maybe you should move to Wales. What? What? Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, 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 yeah. We think you should move to Wales. What? Well, what? Okay, well, let me think about it a little bit, right? There is a beauty in having this faith, that there is a beauty in that. And there is a whole other level of empowerment that comes with being able to discern the pattern behind the thing which is nudging the faith. So, we work co-creatively, but we also need to take responsibility as well. So, looking at from a balanced perspective, like when we are open in the crown chakra and that energy is flowing and it's flowing into us, flowing down into the brow and the throat and the heart and the solar plexus, all the way down into our feet, that we are able to be accountable, responsible. I can look at times, oh yeah, oh, that was not one of my shining moments, that's for sure, without judgment, right? Certainly from a place of wisdom and experience, to quote Blake, songs of wisdom and experience. Um, because when I can look at the things that I have done, the choices that I have made, and I will say, and I know I've talked about this before, this whole thing of me pulling photos from this bin of photos has been such a crown chakra thing because I will look at these, and it's like, I know what was going on at that time. I remember, how terrified I was or how scared I was or lost I was. And yet there's this face that I'm presenting to the world. Like, what was that disconnect? What was going on there? what was it? What was it that caused me to make those choices? What relationship with self had I lost in that time? So this being able to, there's that definition of, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. To look at our experiences and to be able to have a sense of, oh, right, like these were the beliefs that I was operating with then. This is what was informing me then. This is what I was plugged into then, and what didn't work for me, and how I was able to unattach from that. This is how we're able to hone our wisdom. One of the I'm coming back to you. Oh, I'm sometimes conscious. This is such a higher self thing. I feel sometimes like a Debbie Downer. I don't know why Saturday Night Live is like figuring so prominently in today's talk. Oh, hold on. There's a whole bunch of things that people have said. Uh, I will come back to Debbie Downer in a moment. Um, so, oh yes, yes, the anger, right? Yeah. So there's a whole thing around. I was just talking with somebody about a definition of mental illness being where the message that is coming from the truth of my soul is out of sync with the message that I am getting externally. And I am trying to fit the square peg of the external message into the round of my own internal, and it does not fit. It does not fit, and I'm trying to force it. I know you're Goldilocks. Um, and so which nature elements? So, I mean, I think in truth, all of nature does, this is where, forest bathing or, lying on the ground, looking up at the sky, like they can help to restore balance. There's, stones we can use and herbs we can use, and like all of those things can help, but ultimately I tend to go to a place that says if I want to balance in my crown chakra, then I need to be aware of the way in which um, the voice that's in there is not a voice of compassionate understanding, that it is harsh. And if it is harsh, then to learn how to put the boundaries around that. And we know the impact of the voice, whether it's the critical or the higher self, because of what it feels in our heart and in our solar plexus. Hmm. Yeah, interesting. Sorry, my head just went to, I almost said in our heart and in our soul, but I said in our heart or in our solar plexus. And all of a sudden, the solar plexus became the soul art plexus. It lives in here. Soul being defined as spirit, which is embodied. It lives in me. Uh, oh, I said I wasn't going to forget, and then I forgot. What was I saying? Why did I come back to you? Wait. Hmm. I think it's gone. Anyways, let me pause for a moment. It'll come back. I know it'll come back because it's just flirting at the edge of my brain. I'm going to pause and just see where you guys are at with all of this. Ah, nope, it came back already. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, my gripe with mindfulness is that potentially it can be presented in a way which is like just rise above. Just rise above. It's a similar energy to turning the other cheek, which has holds the danger of becoming dissociative. It's from a higher self perspective, from a crown chakra perspective. I need to rise above a situation in order for me to see the full picture, in order for me to get the maximum amount of information so that I am able to better go back down into the situation and address it with the most accurate and informed information that I have. Not to rise above and, okay, yeah, I guess it's not that big a deal. Because I can guarantee that we do that a few times, and then we're surprised at the fact that my inner child is having a temper tantrum and will not let go. I can only trick the border collies so many times before they're like, oh no, mom, we got your number. I know that you say that you're calling us in with a dentist stick, but we know there's no dentist stick, so we're not coming. Right? The psyche is really, really, really clever. So there's a whole thing around bracketing, right? Which is I'm in a moment, I'm in the middle of class and the feeling is coming up and it's not appropriate for me to sob in the middle. So I did, you know what? That's okay. We'll just take a breath, put it aside, we'll deal with it later. And then later comes and it's like, oh, you know what? I'm fine now. I'm fine now. I'm not gonna. So the next time I'm teaching and things comes up and it's like, oh, okay, nope, 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 not appropriate. Got to bracket it. I'll deal with you later. And then later comes and it's like, no, yeah, actually, I feel okay. That's fine. Honestly, that can only happen so many times before you're in class and the feeling comes up and you're like, let's just bracket it. And it says, hell no. I know what happens when you bracket. You don't bracket, you just put me in the back of the closet and then you never take me out again. So I'm not going anywhere this time. I'm going to have a meltdown in front of everybody. Right? That's what I say is the danger. It's not the intention of mindfulness, but it can be the danger if we don't use it to get the perspective and then drop back down in and address the situation that needs addressing. So now I'm going to pause. So again, just reiterating that last bit of being that, the way in which I show myself that I love myself is in um supporting myself to go back and look at the hard stuff and feel the hard emotions and to know that there's wisdom in there, there's information in there, there's guidance in there that is helpful for me. And if I don't look at that, this book, Burnout: Secrets to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, burnout as being you know, sort of those fumes that happen from the heart when the heart chakra is so blocked that we're not able to love and support ourselves. And something else in that as well. I think that's gone as well. So one of the things that right, one of the affirmations um coming back to Stuart Smalley And that movie, Stuart Smalley Saves His Family, um, which, if you're able to find it, is would be interesting to watch. Um, in truth, I remember watching it and finding it so very upsetting because it was just so evident how dysfunctional the family was. And you're just watching this spirit trying to navigate and care and reflect and just being um just sort of put down and criticized and humiliated at so many turns. And what I know of that time, just from access to things at that time, was that um I'm blanking on the name of the actor, but that was something that he was going through, right? Like that so much of comedy comes out of life experience. And unfortunately, the thing about it is that it made people self-conscious around working with affirmations because it was kind of making fun of them, like, oh, I'm, strong enough and pretty enough, and and people, my gosh, like me, and so then people were like, oh gosh, well, I can't do the affirmations, but um, but there is something in that, which is I need to challenge the negative programming and find something that is going to, yes, sometimes it may challenge me. It's not going to give me a free pass, but it is going to challenge me in a way that sees the best, sees the strength in me, sees the resilience in me, um, not in a way that's going to try to tear me down. And um, so there's this affirmation of, that every experience that I have is touched by spirit. Not that every experience I have is comfortable. Um, not that pain or challenge or abuse is spirit, but that every moment is touched by spirit, in that there is a spirit in me which is having this experience. And these experiences can serve to anchor that within me, or it can serve to feel like it's clamping me down, shutting me down. And that, to do that, the closing of that crown, and that is what leads to depression. That I feel as well, because I've had a number of these conversations in the last little bit as well, that it leads to despair, and the fear then is that it leads to suicide, right? That absolute disconnection, that it just makes no sense to me. There's no meaning here. There's no hope here. Is a very dangerous, dangerous place to go. And so this ends up then bringing another reflection to the crown chakra. Is not just about, listening to the higher self. It is about connect. The higher self is my experience of spirit. What is spirit? What is it? And how is that something which is present in my life? So in working with, I mean, this for me is what the power of spiritual psychotherapy is. It's certainly not, I know it goes without saying, it's not a religion thing at all. And it's certainly not well, I read cards and I talk to, the spirits. It's not that. There is a force in me. There's a force charged in me. There is a, there is a tether between that which animates me and that which has always been. And I may not even be able to define exactly what that is, but I know what that feels like within me. And so when I am having one of those moments when, what I know I need in my heart and what life is sending to me, it's discombobulating. Then I reach for, and this, Diana, is sort of answering your question as well. It might be nature. I mean, I've got a gazillion statues around. And it's not that the meaning is in the statue, it's that the statue is a doorway into something which is far bigger than me. And that is the thing to draw strength from, because this moment may feel like it's bigger than me, but it's not bigger than me connected with spirit. Right? So we need to know what that life is, what that energy is like for us. And, for myself, I have different ways in which it reflects, but the Sisterhood of Avalon is one, that with the goddesses, the Welsh goddesses, and if there's a moment when for me it's like this feeling is too much, this pain is too much, this challenge is too much, then to go to the altar or go in meditation of connecting with, like, what guidance do I need? What reflection do I need? Um, so that there is something within us that knows that we are always supported, not necessarily by the situations around us or the people around us, they're flawed, but that there is something that I'm connected to. And now I'm very aware of, these emanating rays around me. Like the halo is that recognition that spirit shines into me and around me and through me. And that is my truth. That's what I am tethered to. And having a daily practice, whatever that looks like, means that the more that I connect with it, even in the shiny, sunny days, it's that then I know exactly where it is on those challenging, stormy days. I don't have to look for it because I have connected every day. So even doing something like like chakra color breathing, like every morning, just breathe. Root chakra, balanced red, sacral chakra, orange, solar plexus, balance with yellow, like, okay, right. That's what it feels like to be flowing. And you do that every day. Then when you have a day that's a curveball, it's like, right. Oh, okay, right there it is. I know what that feels like to be centered. And we just respond. So what I would like to do, I was going to, I was going to get an angel oracle, but I want to, this Threads of Fate. It's one of the decks that I use in this cycle because I love this, starting to open up to the web of weird. I used to use it in cycle 8, but I've got lots of other ancestral and Dia de los Muertos type decks there. So I'm going to do what I've done other times. I'm just going to lay out 5 cards as a way to end our time with cycle 7. Oh, I didn't lay out 5. I made 5 piles. So pick a number between 1 and 5. Okay. 1 is love. You can see the heart, true heart with the flame. I'll go back and read what they are, but number 2, soul work. You see it's a B. Soul work. Number 3 is ascension. And those are a hand with wings on it. Number 4 is get wild, the wolf. And number 5 is the observer. Where we go here? Here we go. So again, there's wings. That feels very much like that higher self perspective. Oh, so the only thing I don't like about this deck is that it's not in any sort of alphabetical order. So sometimes you have to flip forever until you find but I did open it up to the observer right away. And my book is falling apart. Here's the pages. It just fell out. I've had it a little while. So the observer indicates a time when you are being encouraged to suspend judgment or conclusions and simply witness. Pause and simply pay attention. The balanced observer intuitively knows when to be present and when to move. So that is the observer message. Let's see if I can get the other. Oh, okay. Love. So that was card number 1. Is an invitation to examine love in all facets. Love of self, love of others, healthy or maybe not healthy boundaries, your presence with others, your relationship with intimacy. And also to look at the ways in which you feel seen and heard, and how passion and joy show up in your life as well. And I'm sorry, these are out of order. It's just as I'm finding them. So card number 3. So we've gone 5, 1, 3 is Ascension. So this card is a testament to all of the work you have done. It's a nod from the universe that your efforts are seen and being rewarded. Things are moving forward, and you will continue to progress and reach higher states of consciousness. It's also a card which encourages you to deepen your spiritual practices and work towards alignment with the highest codes of your being. This is about reaching your true potential. So the last 2, soul work. So card number 2. So though the first 3 were sort of the high highly potent cards. This deck is elementally aligned, and so those three cards being of ether, really, they just are the message that they are. The other cards have um, because they're aligned with an element, they also have an animal and a tree and a crystal. So I'll share what those are. So for soul work, and soul work is um, connected with air. Some, obviously the bee. Sometimes while we are navigating our day-to-day life, we can lose sight of our highest purpose in this earthly realm. Nothing by chance, right? This card asks you to once again check in with your soul purpose. It is not possible to be derailed from your soul path, no matter where you are, but clarity does help us show up for it in a more intentional way. So the B, call upon B when you are in a liminal space between knowing and action. The tree is aspen. There's a lot of this which is around community building as well. The aspen tree is unique because it grows in colonies where all the trees share an underground root system, and each tree is part of a single organism. So the aspen message is that your soul has lived many times, and in those life circumstances may change, but your soul has awakened and will continue to awaken to its highest calling. And the stone is the diamond. Interesting. It says, contrary to popular belief, diamonds are not created from coal. They come from the Earth's depths and are produced by the intense heat of volcanoes and cosmic collisions. Our soul work often appears to us in the same way. And the last is get wild. Get wild is the element of in the element of earth. To connect to our wild nature is to bring ourselves into a state of balance. Having been raised in a culture that favors order, control, discipline, and obligatory respect for authority, many of us get a feeling of danger when we start to veer off the given path. This card is asking you to spend some time with the primal, intuitive aspect of yourself. So the animal is the wolf, teaches us how to reconnect to our instincts, intuition, and wild self. Um, so call on the wolf as a guide in the journey of reconnecting with your untamed self. The plant is the blackberry. Huh. Sorry, I'm sorry. So this is the one that I picked, and blackberry is very similar to bramble, of which there is so much everywhere in our garden. Wild blackberry is considered one of the most invasive plants across multiple continents. I can vouch for that. Um, the more we have domesticated plants and landscaped our environment, the more people have come to view plants that are untamable as weeds and a nuisance. The blackberry teaches us that having confidence in our authentic selves, despite how much people frown upon it, is key to expansion. I may need to go and love a bramble. And then the stone is aragonite. Aragonite helps connect us to our childhood and past lives. It serves as a powerful portal to remembering that which we have forgotten. In this way, it gets us in touch with the natural curiosity and rawness that children possess. So I'm going to leave the recording there and um, with a thank you for being a part of, the cycle 7, and we'll see you for cycle 8. So goodbye to those watching on the recording.